Hi, Klaus. Nice to have you here. You are the founder and CEO of Design Hotels, yes. And we would really like to know what actually distinguishes a typical hotel, if we may say a contemporary hotel, from a design hotel. Can you please tell us the whole story behind it?
How much time do you have? It took me 25 years to come here, so I have lots of stories to tell. And I'm going to make it short as possible. I mean, the whole thing started at the end of the 80s. And when you look back at the end of the 80s, there were really beautiful historic hotels, or there were pretty lousy chain hotels. I personally actually never understood why there were so many ugly hotels out there. But there were a couple of bright people who were maybe coming from different parts of hospitality, in particular these times, maybe people more from nightclubs or restaurants or bars, who helped to reinvent the industry. There was no hotel group out there looking after this. I think that was maybe also a reason how people working in the hotel industry have been brought up. We work very close with the big universities, so in the early 90s there was not so much education around new ways of hospitality. It was all kind of the old style was taught. So we went into this and we saw that there was a need with a fast-growing new consumer group for a new type of hotel. We didn't have a business model at this time. I studied communications. So we started the whole business more as a communication company. Only mid of the 90s, we figured out how we can build a global company by supporting the hotels with reservation technology, with marketing, with communication, and so on and so forth. So in the 90s, though, it was not so easy to find these hotels because there were only, a couple of handful opened around the world. It was only at the end of the 90s when we had maybe around 35, 40 hotels which we were representing predominantly in Europe, North America, and a little bit in Asia. At the end of the 90s, then Barry Sternlight, the founder of Starwood Hotels and Resorts, launched the W brand, and he was I believe in the financial community, he was very respected, and everybody said if Barry goes into that thing, then there's maybe something more. And we saw that with the turn of the millennium, it was easier to find a contemporary hotel than it was before. There was some proof of concept. And then between 2000 and 2010, we saw that, more and more real estate developers were trying to further differentiate. They saw a new niche opening, and there was more money coming into this part of the industry. So when we look back, maybe 15 years ago, it was good to hire a Philip Stark and have a contemporary hotel. Now it's not enough because there are so many great designers, so many great architects, and so many new, contemporary, much better looking hotels than they were before. So we were always trying to adapt and adjust to the consumer needs. And if you look at the consumer today, one side, what we just learned from you, he has, this internet and so many different potential sources of information. On the other side, what we see as a consumer trend in the luxury segment, the consumer is looking more and more for authentic, maybe an overused word, and almost artisan kind of an experience. What's less is in a way more. What's limited has more value. And I believe the chains, they still will struggle. They can build contemporary hotels, but it will be difficult for them to bring everything what we believe makes a hotel project, a true design hotel, long-lasting and really sustainable. Because our criterias, and I said, I can talk forever, but I learned. You Greeks, you like to talk as well. Yeah. So I feel comfortable being among you. So to answer your question, 15 years ago, good design, come in, become a member. It's not enough anymore. Now we look, what is the concept of the hotel? And that means, is it like a private, very, exclusive place in a neighborhood without a huge restaurant where all the city comes in? Or is it exactly that? Is it a very happening, lively place with lots of people coming in? Is it a destination spa? Is it a hotel where families, should come in, and so on and so forth? So at the first we look at the concept, then we look how this concept is architecturally converted. What is the interior design? What is the brand? Like, how does it smell? What's the graphics? What's the visuals? What's the whole, how is it, communicated as a whole package? And what becomes more and more important for the discerning traveler, which we are catering to, is he uses the hotel almost as his hub, as his, call it, embassy. He wants to explore the neighborhood. He wants to understand where to go, what's the new restaurant, what's the right gallery, where do I go shopping, where do I find the artisan, also, among the craftsmen in the destination. And last but not least, what we see is that sustainability and the approach to the environment becomes a more and more important also choice for this modern traveler. So these are the 6 criteria. When a hotel applies for membership, we get about 350 applications every year from around the world. This is what we go through, and this is what we monitor. And what we realized, that it's really complex. I mean, everything what you were talking about, this is a dream scenario, but how much does it cost to do all of this for a hotel? Our size of member is at average 70 rooms. Let it be somewhere between predominantly 2 million, and depends how big the food and beverage outlets are, 4 million euros revenue per year. So how much of your revenues do you need to contribute just to have all of this, Take 2-3%, and you're spending already, what most of the hotels use for their entire marketing. So the world in this, for an independent hotelier, becomes really complex. You need to understand food, design, neighborhoods, architecture, blah, blah, blah. Plus, on top of that, how do you present yourself in that online world? And this is what we as a company do. We try to help all of our members to make the right decisions in where to invest and how to expose themselves.
Okay, I have read your 5 stages of luxury.
Yes.
I don't know if it's the proper time to explain a little bit about that to the crowd, because it gives another dimension to what luxury really means.
I think what when I first came up with the idea, I wanted to build a vertical brand, which so far didn't exist in hospitality. It was all about 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. And everybody, my friends who I met in my early parts of my career, they said, you know what, you need to change it. It's not going to work. Hospitality doesn't work like this. It works horizontal. But I said, but you know what? I mean, people buy an H&M T-shirt, but they have a Celine bag. They have a watch which is 20,000, but they wear sneakers. And, in the first and business classes, all of a sudden, the people were not only wearing suits and ties, they were looking all differently. And that was in the 90s. And I think with the fall of the towers in September 11, lots of people started to question what luxury really means. And with that, there became a kind of a transition. And more young consumers were more affluent and understand, when to spend more money, when to spend less money, for what. And I think that was one of the reasons why we, at the end of the day, succeeded. I mean, our cheapest hotel room is maybe 70 euros. Our most expensive one is 12,000 a night. So, and it works to a certain degree very well. It's not for everybody. And so I think the whole industry was trying to figure out what luxury means. And we worked together with a trend forecasting bureau from London. They're called the Future Laboratory for many, many years. And these guys, they do trend scouting all around the world. And a couple of years ago, they came up with the 5 stages of luxury, which we subscribe to. And let me try to explain it really in a nutshell. With the opening of the emerging markets, with more Russians, Chinese, Indians, Brazilians, whatsoever, coming into the luxury market, they wanted to show what they can afford. So a Louis Vuitton bag, Tom Ford glasses, a Chanel shirt. For them, it was important to show that. So the logos were very important. The people who were using these brands, they didn't feel so comfortable all of a sudden standing on Fifth Avenue surrounded by 5 Russians. I can talk about them because I'm married to one. So standing around by 5 Russians who were wearing Dior from head to toe. So it made them to look for, new brands, brands with more history. It was a great chance for the likes of Dunhill and others to help to reposition them. So in the first stage, you pretty much see the classical, more opulent brands. In the second stage, it's more discerned. In the third stage, it's much more about the experience. In the fourth stage, sustainability plays a major role. And in the fifth stage, you spend all your life in the hamster wheel to make more and more and more money, to spend more and more on stuff until you get burned out and you sit there and you look for yourself. Okay, so the fifth stage is more about poetic. It's more philosophical. And what we see, we're monitoring this now since half a decade, 5 years, and we see that more and more brands, they move with these stages. So where you looked at the collections of the Louis Vuittons 5 years ago, it was much more flash, and the classical store opening would be with a champagne cocktail and blah, blah, blah. Whereas just now, you're going to go to the fourth store in the London shop and you have a reading, So it's much more about content, and what you were also saying, for multiple reasons. On the one side, to have a more intellectual approach to your brand, to create a more meaningful moment, no matter if you're a car company, a fashion brand, or a hospitality company. And on the other side, you want to use that content to bring it into the web. I don't know if anybody knows Nowness. Have you heard about that website? So check the web, Nowness. It's a portal with a daily news about lifestyle, and you won't find Louis Vuitton on it, but it's actually operated by Louis Vuitton. They even talk about competing brands in it. So there is a huge trend into, content marketing. There are interesting collaborations out there, and I think it defines a little bit the new way of where the economy in general is going to, and this is where we feel comfortable being in there with our hoteliers spread around the world, very unique and original people who have moved most of their neighborhoods coming from bars or restaurants or clubs, and then later adding rooms to it and offering wonderful hotels. So the 5 stages of luxury, I think, is an important part when you're at the beginning start to conceptualize your hotel. And this is crucial. I saw there were lots of hands up, and most of the audience is architects. I think, when your potential client comes to you, you need to challenge him how he later wants to execute and operate the place. We see out of our applications there is a lot of misbrief. There are people who still decide architecture and design emotionally by what they like, and not what the concept supposed to need, you know. And it's not an easy task, but I think as an architectural office, it's really crucial not just look for your customer and to get the job, but help that you're later going to be proud of the property which this company is operating, that you want to send people there and not just show.
Very important.
But I think there you guys should cooperate, you know. I mean, the destination, you know, I mean, I think there is, you know, I agree with everything what you said before, you know, I mean, make sure that the hygiene is there and the health, life and safety is there. But other than that, trying to cluster between a boutique hotel or historic, just forget it, you know. I don't think, you know, I think government offices should stay out of this. But I believe you know, this is not just Greece. I think the whole world can learn. There are very few great examples for destination sites. There's, you know, you ask me, I'm constantly looking. I cannot refer to a single one, you know. And I think there, you know, the money which is going into tourism marketing could be much more wiser spent in collaborations with agencies like, you know, like yours. And then the smaller properties would be, for them it would be easier to, you know, just plug in, and they wouldn't need, you know, it depends if you have, I mean, everything what you're saying, you can do it maybe for X amount or XYZ amount, you know, I mean, creating a good online experience, I mean, make a movie, you know, I mean, in the best case, it's maybe 3,000 euros, but if this is not gonna sell the destination, because for the destination you maybe need to spend 50,000 to make a nice movie, you know, and then find another way to do. But I think there's a huge opportunity for the public sector mixing with the private sector. I think there are new business models potentially being out there, you know. I mean, if I would have a 10-room hotel on Santorini, and I see there is a fantastic destination website for Santorini, then I put my marketing dollars into this site in order to have, you know, being part of that presentation. If you add on, you know, a central reservation system where, you know, the people who visit the Santorini site can book centrally and get a commission out of it, it could be an incentive for you, it could be an incentive for the government. So I think there are opportunities out there. I mean, look at Airbnb, you know, I mean, they didn't exist 5 years ago, okay? But I'm missing the dynamic there, you know, and if I go to ITB, big tourism show, the tourism boards, they still do their big stands, and, you know, it's archaic in a way. And there's no real parallel development on the digital world. We talk about these things, what you're presenting, which is the truth. But for small independent hotels, it's really, really difficult to play in that game, okay? You need to do this and you need to have it, but then at the end of the day, what happens, I have a cousin and my cousin has a friend, and this guy can do a website, and here you go, you know? And ultimately what's happening is everybody who has his inventory online available, it's all sucked in by the TravelClick, Bookings.com, Expedia, online tour operators, who's going to charging you 25% on the transaction, and that's where the business ends up. And these companies are multi-billion-dollar companies with hundreds of millions of IT development and search engine and marketing budgets and so on and so forth. And this is what, you know, lots of smaller hotels are suffering, because they're actually losing their brand and losing it to the intermediary. And I believe, you know, from an online distribution point of view, which becomes the source, you know, no question, there will be new business models out there, and you're either being part of, you know, you decide, there's a cost of distribution, full stop, okay? And now you can choose where you want to do it. If you want to do it ideally on your direct channel, then you spend more money on creating it, and you spend less money on the transaction. Or you keep it really small, and then you spend less money on your own creation, but you spend more money on every room sold. And that's the same as part of, an entrepreneurial decision, which way you want to go. And in the niche we're playing, we just believe that, being associated in a niche market, in a niche brand, it's maybe easier to direct more of the business to your own channel, but in exchange you need to spend also more money on creating that channel, and because it's not just building a website, somebody needs to sit on top of it and needs to monitor what's going on. And if you look at what the big companies are doing and how much money they spend and how much people they have sitting on it, it's difficult for small properties.
So, Claus, what is your suggestion if someone would like to renovate his hotel? Yeah. This is a closing statement for each one of you.
My recommendation in terms of what?
Should they be included in a network like yours? Should they think of having a brand identity as a design hotel? Should they try to do the best they can in their local community? Of course, I know you would promote your brand. This is what I would do. But
not
just a statement.
I mean, it's ideological, I think it's, how much. I think it has also to do with, and maybe not. It has to do with if you feel like you want to have more control, then you maybe have more people on your side, either on payroll or with consultants, and you get deeper. You get up your hands up the sleeve, and you're working on it. Okay. I think if you do that well, you can create a premium. Okay, the premium comes through occupancy and through rate. Let me give you an example. San Giorgio, our member hotel in Mykonos, was our second pop-up. Okay, we did the first pop-up. I live in Mexico, in Tulum, and that's where we took a beach, 3 little huts, places, 60 cabanas, and we repositioned it with very little investment. And then my friend Thomas, who is at the end of here in the room, he always wanted to do a hotel. He had the chance to get the hand on a 36-room hotel in Mykonos in Paraga, and it was before that relatively mediocre managed with no clear brand and no strategy, and it just looked like thousands of hotels in Greece, okay? And then we did this together. We furnished it and refurnished it with a very little budget. I think the furnishing budget in total was less than 200,000 euros, and there were some money which had to go through the reconstruction of some areas. But I think in the hardware, all the money which was spent was maybe 400,000 euros. Before that, the hotel was running at an average rate of, I think, 70 euros and an average occupancy in the season of maybe 50%. So last year, I think they closed with an occupancy of 92% and an average rate of 260. Okay, their cost to design hotels is a higher cost than if they would have maybe done it themselves. All right. But in total, if you look at the bottom line, the numbers speak for themselves. So in that particular case, it has been the right destination. They went in at the right time to get the lease at the right time. It was the right positioning, and here we go. Could that happen anywhere? Would that be maybe the same in Corfu? Maybe not 100%. Okay. So what I'm trying to say is much more complex. There's no straight answer, okay? But of course, I believe we're representing 289 hotels in the world. I mean, this is nothing. So, but the consumer, the consumer who is willing to spend the premium is looking for this kind of experiences. So if you do this right, then there is a huge chance to get to that premium. Can you do this all by yourself? I don't think so. Okay? If you're in New York, in Manhattan, it's a different ballgame. There's a high demand on the destination. There are relatively high rates. It's different. But if you're in a more remote destination or in a destination you need additional help, it's better to associate and affiliate yourself with something you believe in. And the same accounts for your organization, the person, the customer who goes to your kind of hotels would maybe check with Leading or with Relais and Chateau, and then it comes to yours, and then he makes his own choice. And we compete with, other boutique brands, all right? There's competition everywhere. But I believe if you take an existing property, no matter where it is and in what shape it is, if you look to create this experience in the destination, and you have a strong concept with the right design and the right food and beverage concept, you can make it. And we have lots of examples where it worked out well.